NFL team preview, 2024 season. We're talking the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm not going to beat around the bush here. The Eagles are who I think is going to win the Super Bowl. I think Jalen Hurts is going to win MVP. I bet both of them already at plus 1,500. I like the Eagles to go over their win total and to win the division as well, but as of now, I just have the Super Bowl bet. Don't want to have all my eggs in one basket. This roster is just absolutely loaded. They improved their biggest weakness last year in the secondary. Philly goes from having two inexperienced first-time play callers at offensive and defensive coordinator with all types of chemistry issues there. Now two new veteran coordinators at offensive coordinator. I love Kellen Moore. Everywhere he's been so far, he's been top in pace. Eagles should be one of the fastest teams now, snap to snap. Last year, Kellen's Moore offense had the most pass plays out of no huddle. And we've seen in the past what Jalen Hurts looks like in a fast no huddle offense. Back when Shane Steichen was the OC on their Super Bowl run, it just wore down opposing defenses. We'll also see a lot more pre-snap motion. Philly was dead last in plays ran with pre-snap motion last season. Kellen Moore's offense in LA is top 10. They get a huge upgrade at defensive coordinator with Vic Fangio, who, in my opinion, is a top 5 defensive coordinator. He's had success just about everywhere he's been. Last season at Miami, probably the only exception, and I think that was just a bad fit from personnel and philosophy, plus dealt with a lot of key player injuries. Only real concern with Fangio is his defensive system. It's like known to be very complex and can take teams a while to get familiar with, and the Eagles are pretty young defensively, but reports out of camp so far, they're right on schedule. Then again, all reports out of camp are pretty positive. Eagles have one of the easiest schedules this season. Not only is it easy from an opponent's strength, but they have a lot of games where they'll have the rest advantage. Philly only faces 3 clear top 10 teams this season. Dallas, who they'll play twice, and then they play on the road in Baltimore and then in Cincy. They catch a pretty big break playing that international game in Brazil on their season opener rather than having to deal with that travel mid-season, like sandwiched in between games. And I really think with Kellen Moore, we see this best version of Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has been like one of the most productive quarterbacks when facing cover 1 defensive formations, but his threat of running the ball just hasn't been there. It wasn't there last year, and could have been due to injuries or by design or something they decided as a team to do. And then defenses, started blitzing more and playing more cover 0. The Eagles just never adjusted, and they struggled the back half of the season because of it. But now, Kellen Moore at OC, the reports are this offense is going to be very different from last season. Seems like there's going to be a lot more willingness to run from both Hurts and Kellen Moore with play calling. He likes to use QB runs, so which I'm a huge fan of anyway. And I don't know, there's a lot of differing opinions about Saquon Barkley, and I've personally never been a fan of his. Always thought he was overrated and kind of injury prone, and in general, I just think like 80% of running backs just don't even make a difference on teams. But a lot of running backs do go through their like this resurgence period, and it's usually on a new team. It's not like he's old, and he's finally going to be behind a good offensive line. One that he's never had before. Saquon Barkley's played behind a bottom 16 run blocking offensive line in 5 of his 6 career seasons in New York. Now, with the Eagles O-line, they're one that's finished top 5 3 straight years. This O-line led Philadelphia running backs in yards before contact rankings the last 3 years. They ranked 2nd, 4th, and 5th. Saquon, last 3 years, yards before contact, ranked 33rd, 21st, and 40th. Yards before first contact is like a really good blocking stat, more than it is a running back metric. It's probably going to be weird for Barkley with the running lanes he's about to see. And I actually think Barkley will help Hurts. Or they'll help each other, I should say. Defenders are going to have to respect the read option of Hurts. Will open up lanes for Barkley and kind of like vice versa. Now, predicting who will win the Super Bowl obviously isn't an easy thing. A lot of things can happen throughout the season. We can't predict injuries. We can't predict crucial plays during a game that impact outcomes like turnovers or penalties. All we can really do is look at the roster, try to predict which team we think is best. This Eagles offense, on paper, in my opinion, is structured the best, not just based on talent, but what kind of offense OC Kellen Moore wants to run. We all know the skill position players are loaded, but the linemen, up front, two perennial Pro Bowlers, Lane Johnson and Landon Dickerson. I really like Eagles general manager Howie Roseman. I agree with basically exactly how he builds a team. He starts on the inside out in the trenches. He puts a ton of resources up front on the offense and defensive line. They lost Jason Kelsey to retirement, but this offensive line is going to be fine. They won't miss a beat. No question, looking at this roster, there's a ton of top-end talent, but the problem here is when you have elite talent, you have to sacrifice somewhere, and it's not like they have a ton of depth. So injuries are a concern with Philly. Need them to avoid the injury bug, and the Philly defense was just riddled with injuries all last season. The defense alone had the third most AGL, which is adjusted games lost to injury. The secondary itself, Darius Slay, he was out for the final 6 games of the regular season. Their best slot corner, Avonte Maddox, he only played 4 games. It'd be brutal luck, I guess, if they once again are a team with a lot of injuries. So I hope they avoid that. And speaking of things you can't really predict, I've talked a lot about how important turnovers are in other videos. And just as turnovers can help teams win and it can disguise a bad team and make them look good, it can work in reverse. Turnovers killed Philly last year. They finished ranked 27th in net EPA loss due to turnovers. And I think Philly really needed that embarrassing loss in the playoffs to Tampa Bay. It kind of rejuvenated them and made them realize they need to make some changes, and they made those changes in the offseason. Better coaching, better talent in the spots they needed. This team is just as talented as the 2022 season and the Super Bowl run, but they have a much easier schedule to navigate this season. Now, I have a lot more I could talk about with this team, especially defensively. I have a screen here that I look at with bullet points or different topics to keep me on track. I have like 5 more bullet points to go. Actually, one more thing I'll fit in here. A.J. Brown, Offensive Player of the Year, plus 3,500. I bet it, but it's not going to make my official futures bet sheet because I already bet Amon-Ra St. Brown. But all the talks are about A.J. Brown being the focal point of this offense, and it's an offense I'm really high on with Kellen Moore, the no-huddle, more up-tempo, more passing, explosive plays. Someone has to benefit from it, and the price seems right at plus 3,500 odds. But here's where I'll stop. I'll never finish these videos if I just make them all 12 minutes long. And how long is this one? Yeah, we're past 10 minutes now, so the video editing alone takes me a couple hours on this, so because I'm just not good with it. But I still have a lot of teams to get through. I don't even think I finished every team last year, too. But I'm going to try like hell to run through the next 20 teams here and get them banged out. Until next time, good luck with your